Hey guys, my name is Sitija. I am a statistics PhD, grad school applicant for fall 2022, and I applied to 21 different PhD programs throughout the course of these last couple months. And let me tell you, it was quite a hassle to keep track of all of these different things. Like who did I submit recommendation requests for already for this school, and then which schools have I received recommendation requests from, recommendations from which professors, which statement of purpose essays need to have professors listed, which departments specialize in machine learning. There's so many different tiny things to keep track of throughout this process, throughout this admissions, not the admissions, but the application process for grad school. And I want to show you exactly how I organized myself to complete these 21 applications this month. And hopefully this will save you some headache in the future when you're also applying to graduate programs. All right, let's get right into it. So this is the master sheet. This is the most important spreadsheet that I use to organize myself. Right now I'm just doing a demo with the top 10 biology programs, top 10 according to like the US Best News website. And it goes MIT, Stanford, UC Berkeley, CIT, which is California, Harvard, and so on. So I'm going to demonstrate how I would use this master sheet if I was applying to these top 10 biology schools. So on the left, the first column is just the university name, and later I'll explain why they're colored different colors. First is the website in terms of the columns, and here all you have to do is I just looked up MIT Biology PhD, and I just copied and pasted the website into this cell. And then the emphases. So this is an important column, I would say, because this is where you keep track of what does the department emphasize in terms of research. And this isn't all too relevant if you're going for a master's program, but especially for PhD programs, you want to have this column for sure. And then, is the GRE required or is it optional? There's some schools that actually don't even take the GRE, like you can't submit it. So just make sure to have a column where you can keep track of that. GRE or any other standardized test. Do you need to list professors in the statement of purpose? This is something that I had to do because a couple departments specifically require that you state like a handful of professors that you would be interested in working with. And then the deadline. Of course, the deadline is very important. For MIT, it is the December 1st of every single year. And that's actually how this first column is organized. So it goes MIT, Stanford, UC Berkeley. This should be organized by deadline. And then that's why they're actually colored different colors as well. So MIT and Stanford are also, they're both on the same day. UC Berkeley to Harvard, this is like the next kind of region or chunk. And then Johns Hopkins to Yale, and then Cornell. So that's kind of how I organized myself by deadline. And then transcript. Is the transcript official? Is it unofficial? Do you need to send your transcripts by mail, or is an unofficial one that you can download from the website okay? And that's definitely an important one to keep track of because some schools are very strict about whether you submit unofficial or official transcripts. Some schools won't accept unofficial ones if you upload them. So make sure to have this column for sure. And then, although it's not relevant for statistics PhDs, for biology PhDs, they ask, or some of the schools ask for an interview. So you definitely want to keep track of that as a column as well. So in general, this is the master sheet. It's the most important one, as I said in the beginning. And this is where you kind of collect all of the preliminary information and keep track of everything as you go. And then once you've submitted an application, what I did was say I submitted MIT, and it's December 1st, submitted it by the deadline, everything's good. So I click on this, and then I highlighted it with a nice green. So then as you kind of progress through the applications, you'll get to highlight them one by one, and it's pretty satisfying, honestly. Let's do a quick example for Stanford. So if I go here, Stanford Biology PhD. And then I just click on the first one. So what we do is Control C, copied, and then come over here and paste. So now we have the website that we can refer to for the biology PhD. And then what are the emphases? So you can just read a little bit. The training for a PhD is a part of this. So there are 3 main tracks. I guess this is useful information. You'll probably want to dig a little bit deeper for the specific research interests, but it's definitely good to know that these are the overall tracks that you can take in the program. And then, is the GRE required? Let's see. Admissions, applying to biology quick guide, actually how to apply, requirements. So it looks like the GRE isn't required. I would double check, but for now, just for this video, let's say it's optional. List profs, this would also be something to get from the statement of purpose, and that'll probably be found on the actual application itself. So let's say no for now, just for the purpose of this video. And then the deadline. Where can we find the deadline? Spring biology application deadline has passed. Okay, well, yeah, whenever you're actually doing it, it'll tell you the deadline. It's probably December, let's say December 1st. And then in the actual application itself, it'll tell you whether you need unofficial or official transcripts. Let's see, a maximum, yes. So here it says unofficial. So we can go unofficial. And then, do they have an interview phase? Just by a quick scan, it seems like they don't, so we'll just say no. And that's how you would do it. And you would just continue down along the list to complete all 10 biology PhD programs. If you have any questions about the master sheet, just drop them in the comments and I will respond to you. Okay, so now that you've got the main sheet set up, the master sheet, this is probably the second most important spreadsheet that I used. So this is what I call direct table, and it has a very similar setup to the master sheet, where you have the program on the left side organized by decreasing order. So as you can see, the MIT, Stanford, UC Berkeley, it's all in the same order and the same color scheme that was used, except now on the columns, for example, I had to do 3 recommendations for each program. So I had Dr. Smith, Dr. Williams, Dr. Robbins. These aren't actual people at my institution, Texas A&M, but for the purpose of this video, these are our recommenders, Smith, Williams, and Robbins. And then what I would do is, once you start working on the application, and then you'll eventually reach a point where you have to submit your recommendation requests. It'll ask for the email, for the name, department, and all sorts of information like that. And then once you submit it, what I did was I went over here and highlighted it light red. So what this light red means is that you went to the application, you submitted the requests, and now you're just waiting on these 3 individuals to return the request with an uploaded recommendation. And then say it's the next day, and Dr. Smith just took care of it very, very fast, and what we would do is we highlight it light green. So now what this means is that for MIT, you submitted requests for Dr. Smith, Dr. Williams, and Dr. Robbins, and then Dr. Smith actually already replied, and it's uploaded in the system. And this is a really, really efficient way to keep track of all of this, because eventually it'll look maybe something like this, and you can very, very clearly see who exactly has already submitted your requests, who hasn't received them, and whatnot. So I'd say this is a really, really nice, easy, neat way to keep track of your recommendations. And then I also added these variables. For example, for the statistics PhD programs, a lot of them did require the GRE. So I put a column that says GRE received, which means did I send it from the actual testing institution or testing company, which is ETS. And when I did, I would mark it with an X. Oh wait, that was Control X. So here we go, with an X. And then say I also submitted it for Stanford, that would be another X. And then the next column is updated transcript. So this is kind of very, very late in the game, like, the last month after you've applied to most of these places, because a lot of schools, as we saw earlier, like MIT is due December 1st, which means that your semester probably hasn't ended by that time. So then you'll have an updated transcript that you can send to them after you actually submit your first application. And I did as well, because I had some December 1st deadlines. And for those schools, once I sent them my updated transcript, I would put an X here to signal that. And then the same for the CV. So for example, I had one of the research works that I mentioned in my first video, the work that was on NFL machine learning type thing. That one actually got accepted with minor revision into this journal, and I wanted to update colleges to let them know that that happened. So I sent them an updated CV, and when I did, I put an X, and that helps keep track of whether I did or didn't for that college. Now, for some schools, they have a kind of a weird system where you might have to submit like a pre-application or something like that. So let's say, for example, that Johns Hopkins has a pre-application where you actually don't do the rec table or send recommendation requests until you've submitted that application. So what I did was, for those kind of weird cases, I colored it gray and then put a little key that's like gray indicates that, and then blah, 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 whatever it is. Let's say gray indicates that the school needs a pre-application first or something. So then you can kind of make a key out here for different things. Another example is that, not here, but let's say right here. I would put an X with parentheses, and then down here I would write what that meant. And what that meant was that there isn't any way to update the transcript. Because that is the case for some of the programs. And this is just a really, really succinct, nice way to keep track of all that. Okay, and then finally, now that you've created the rec table and master sheet, the last thing that you need to create on your Google Drive specifically is the application status folder. So this was very, very important for me, especially with having or applying to 21 different schools. So I called this application status and then double clicked. So now you have this empty folder. And what you're going to do is, for every school that you're going to apply to, create a Google Doc and then list it. So let's make this for MIT. So each school will have its own Google Doc, and we'll start with MIT first. And what I did was I wrote the day. So today is 1/14/2022. And then I would just write what exactly I did for MIT that day. For example, I might write started the application or submitted statement of purpose today. And then whenever you look back, like maybe in a month or so, you can be like, oh, I did submit this. I did submit this. Oh, I have yet to do this. Which actually leads me to my next point. Once you kind of get working on the application, what I did was I had a still to do section like this, where I would list everything that I kind of skipped over through the application that I would be like, oh, I can come back to that later. Which is, for example, in a lot of them, statement of purpose. Or in some of them, they were like, you need to have a math form or supplementary application. And then this is just a really nice way to keep track of all the things that you have yet to do. And then once you do them, I would be like, okay, so let's say it was the next day and I submitted my statement of purpose. I would remove it from the still to do section and then write the day and be like submitted, I'll write SOP for short, today. So the application status folder is a nice way to keep track of every single application and what exactly you did on which day. And it's kind of like a mental receipt for you, so you don't have to think, oh, did I submit my statement of purpose for this school? When did I do it? Am I required to do anything else before I submit? So I definitely recommend doing this for your grad school applications. So we've talked about the Google Drive portion of it, which is definitely the biggest part, with the application status folder, the rec table, and then the master sheet, all of which I will drop a link to or share it somehow down in the description below so you can use it as well and just copy and paste and change the names and stuff. Now let's talk about the file explorer. Okay, I created this folder called Grad School. Right now it's just on my desktop, but you can put it wherever. And right now this folder is empty. And this is where I put all of the, for example, I mentioned how some schools have supplementary applications. This is where I would put all of that stuff. So my statement of purposes, well, actually we'll create a separate folder for that. But the supplementary applications, the math forms, some of them needed like a research experience and such. So all of those kind of extra type of things, they all just kind of get dumped in this Grad School File Explorer folder. And then within this Grad School folder is one of the most important folders. This is the SOP folder, the statement of purpose folder, or you can personal statement, whatever you want to call it, but it's pretty much the required essay folder. And in here, what I would do is, here's where all of the Word documents get saved. Word documents converted to PDFs. Pretty much every single essay that I wrote went into this folder, the SOP folder. I had a general one that I later customized for each school, but pretty much everything that had to do with the statement of purpose essay went into this folder. And then it was super easy to upload into the applications. And that's pretty much it. That's how I organized myself to apply to 21 different statistics PhD programs. You don't have to apply to as many as I did, of course, but hopefully you found something in this video that'll help you in your application process. And if it did, I would really appreciate if you subscribed or liked this video. If you comment, I will definitely respond to you just like I have in my previous videos. And yeah, please make sure to check out the rest of the channel and stick around if you're interested in more college-related content. My name is Sithija, and I will see you next time.